Hey yo, welcome to the Best Day Ever podcast. It is your boy, Mr. Trusav. Man, oh man. Life comes at you fast, bro. Life comes at you fast. I yeah. I just got done arguing with some person that I will never ever see in my life ever again for like the last hour. I had sat down, I had a topic, I had an opening, I had everything ready to go. And I was I was looking at my Facebook, and there was a post in one of the groups I'm in, and I responded, and the next thing I know, one of the admins came on, and we just went back and forth for about an hour and a half before I finally got banned. Or I didn't get banned, I got blocked for I think a day from posting. And so, as a matter of fact, I think they're still talking. Oh, okay, no. I didn't cuss. I didn't cuss. I didn't name call. I mean, if I was petty, I would say that I just argued with Magic Johnson's son for about an hour. But I'm not that petty. I'm not. I have changed. I have grown up. I will not talk about anybody like that. Uh, but let me stop lying. I am that petty. It made me think. It brought me back to the topic that I was originally going to talk about, and this was a little background. Yesterday, my wife and I went to a soccer game in Fairfield at Solano Community College. One of the young ladies I used to work with in Bakersfield is a soccer player, a rather good one. So I was told her, like, if you have a game in Northern California, I'll come check you out. Like, I'll see what's up. So we go up there, watch the game, have a good time. I made a sign and everything. Check out my Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Tru Sav Comedy. And on the way home, we were having what I thought was a civilized discussion. And at a certain point in the conversation, you told me that I was a hypocrite. And I was like, well, what do you mean? She's like, well, you do things. You say one thing, and then you do another. Or you say that you believe a certain thing, and then you do another. And I was like, well, can you explain that to me? Like, give me an example of what I do that makes me a hypocrite. So the example that she gave me was, oh, well, you said you were going to go to the gym like the last 2 days, but then you didn't go. I said, okay, so that makes me a hypocrite? She's like, well, yeah. I said, okay. I don't really believe that, but okay. Can you give me another example? Oh, well, you said you always sweep, but today there was like peanuts on the floor in the kitchen. And I was like, okay, again, I would beg to differ. I think those are two completely different things, but okay, I will acknowledge what you're saying. So today I went and I looked up what the word hypocrite means. And Google says a hypocrite is a person who indulges in hypocrisy. I know, right? That makes little to no sense. So I had to look up hypocrisy. And they defined hypocrisy as hypocrisy is the false appearance of virtue or goodness while concealing real character or inclinations, especially with respect to religious and moral beliefs. Hence, in a general sense, hypocrisy may involve dissimulation, pretense, or a sham. So I was like, I don't think I'm really a hypocrite. I think I just changed my mind. I think a hypocrite would be if I sat here and talked about, oh, I'm going to eat better, or I'm going to do this, or maybe I should give specific examples, right? I'm going to go to the gym every day, and I'm going to preach the wonder of physical health, physical fitness, and I'm going to talk about how great God is and how you need to go to church and you have to live morally. and then I don't do that. But that's not really what's going on here. And I understand what she's saying. I don't think she meant to use the word hypocrite. I think she meant I'm not following through with some of the things that I had said, which I would agree. I think the irony of the situation is when I was looking at my Facebook 5 years ago to the day, I actually posted something about hypocrisy. I know, right? To be specific, it said it was a post about Adrian Peterson. Now we all remember Adrian Peterson and his little incident with his child. For those that don't remember, I will refresh your memory. Adrian Peterson is a running back in the NFL, and he administered corporal punishment to one of his children with a switch, a tree branch, and the world lost their mind. Oh, it's child abuse, so on and so forth. I'm not here to debate the merits of that. That's the facts of what happened. So in the post, it said, Nike dropped Adrian Peterson stating that they don't condone child abuse unless the children are making shoes in dire conditions. Now that would be, I believe that's moral hypocrisy, saying that you don't condone child abuse while employing child slave labor in the majority of your factories throughout the Far East. But hey, who am I? So after she said that, I did take it into consideration, and I thought, well, maybe she just didn't have a good enough example. Maybe I am a bit of a hypocrite, and I don't think about it. And I would have to admit she is kind of right. There's specifically on here, I don't talk about sports. I really have no desire to talk about them until I got added into this thing called a group chat with, I think, 5 or 6 of the other Tru Savs. And the majority of the things we talk about are sports. Sports memes, what teams are good, what teams aren't, betting on what teams are going to win. And I found myself kind of thinking, like, wow, this is a bit hypocritical. I do say I'm not going to talk about sports in the podcast, but yet this is all we talk about in the group chat. What kind of defense they should run, stuff like that. So I don't know if that per se makes me a hypocrite. Well, maybe I don't talk about sports because it's not entertaining for some of you. Some of you guys just don't want to talk about that. And who wants to hear us talk about 3-4 defenses as opposed to a nickel? Or if Jimmy G should get a contract extension, so on and so forth. So I guess I'll give myself a pass. Now, when I was at work, the same issue came up, but in a different stratosphere. I had read an article, and it was about male affection, mainly how men show affection for each other. And it was saying that in a lot of African countries, European countries, Asian countries, that the subject of, we'll say, male affection, and I don't mean kissing or anything like that, like holding hands, hugging each other. It's not frowned upon like it is here in the United States. Like in certain Asian countries, men will hold hands walking down the street. I know a lot of African people that I've seen, like they're really comfortable hugging on each other, sitting close to each other, not in a sexual manner, but just, hey, buddy, hey, give me a hug, this. Where here in the United States, like, that's not really something that we do. So much so that people in New York have come up with pause. I think we've talked about this before. With pause or no homo. When someone does something or says something that they believe could be misconstrued as homosexual, they have to say pause or no homo. Because they have to let you know that I'm not gay. I would never show any sort of affection or something towards another man, which is beyond ridiculous, but I digress. So I was talking to another coworker about this. Like, yeah, that was a really interesting article, such and such and such and such. So later on in the day, a coworker or an employee, to be more specific, a male employee, comes up to me and says, you know, you've lost so much weight. Like, you would be so much cuter if you bought some clothes that like actually fit instead of wearing those baggy clothes. And he walked off. And I was taken aback. I don't want to say I was offended because I wasn't. Well, to add context to the story, the employee's gay, which doesn't change how I felt about what he said. If a woman would have said it, I would have felt the same way. So I come talk to the original woman that I was talking to, and I told her what happened. Like, I can't believe it. He just told me that I would look better if I wore my clothes like this, and so on and so forth. And she said, weren't we just talking about this earlier about men not being able to accept affection from other men? And weren't you saying how you didn't understand why that was a thing? And I paused for a minute, and I was like, damn, you're right. You're absolutely right. I did just say that. So I guess she was right. Like, I guess sometimes, I am a hypocrite sometimes. I don't think hypocrite is the right word, because I don't espouse certain beliefs and then turn on them. I think there's certain times where I may not completely think about something before I say it. Or, yeah, a lot of times I'll say things and not think about it. And then in the end, it turns to bite me in the ass, like that particular situation. Or maybe I'm just working on stuff. Maybe I'm not the perfect creature that I pretend to be. While I was looking up the definition, I found I'm not saying there's an interesting article. It says 9 tricks to avoid becoming a mistrusted hypocrite. Number 1, ignore everyone and act only based on your own moral compass. That's a little iffy. 2, avoid condemning others. 3, identify context and how it changes the way you think. That's what I should have did. 4, listen to your cognitive dissonance. 5, reserve judgment until you've actually experienced something. 6, practice integrity. 7, never make promises. 8, avoid positions of power. Oh, yeah, that one's going to be a little bit more difficult. And 9, don't trust your friends. I don't know about that one. These sounds a little sketch to me. But I mean, hey, Google can't be wrong, right? So, another situation where I would say that I was beyond hypocritical. A friend of mine, shout out to Carlos Santana. We were talking one day, and we were talking about the good old Tru Sav days. And he asked me, what would I do if someone walked up to me? Well, we were talking about the good old days and different fights and scuffles that we had been in and so on and so forth. And I was telling him how that part of my life is over. Like, I don't see myself acting like that anymore. And he was like, no, I don't believe you. Like, that sort of thing isn't something that leaves you. And I was like, well, I'm not the person I was 10 years ago, 15 years ago. It's like, I'm almost 40. Like, I'm not going to act the same way at 40 that I did when I was 21. And he's like, oh, I don't believe you. He's like, so you're telling me right now, if someone walked up and punched you in the face, you're not going to fight him? I was like, no, absolutely not. Like, I was like, well, first I need some context in that. Like, what do you mean someone just walked up and punched me in the face? Like, am I in a grocery store? Are we in a dark alley? Like, are we at a club? Is my wife with me? Like there's so many different variables to that story. Like I can't just. So he started to give me some variables. He said, "Okay, let's say that you're in a parking lot at a store, middle of the day. Guy walks up and punches you." I was like, "Okay, that's still not enough variables. Is this a regular person? Is it a child? Is it a homeless person? Like who is it?" I was like, "Well, it doesn't really matter. If it's a homeless person or another adult male, I'm probably just gonna run and tell people to call the police." And he just couldn't believe it. He's like, "No. You'd never do that." And I was like, "I mean, why wouldn't I?" I asked him, "What would you do?" "Oh, well, we're gonna fight." I said, "Okay, I understand that reaction, but what happens after that?" So let's say this person assaults you for whatever reason. So now you're going to fight them and risk number one, hurting yourself or them. Number two, going to jail. It's like what happens if this person dies? Now that's a whole other set of a whole set of problems I don't want to deal with. What if I die? Like that just doesn't make sense. I'm not going to risk that. So you would just run off like a coward. I was like, "Yeah, absolutely." Like, what do you mean? I don't see it being a coward. I see it as self-preservation. Like that, it just doesn't make sense. So he's like, yeah, right. You're not that person." I said, "Okay, I'm sorry you feel that way." Well, I hate to tell you guys, but he was right. I found out he was right because my wife and I went to Taco Bell one day. This was at least 4 or 5 months ago because I was still eating Taco Bell back then. We go to Taco Bell. We get our food. I sit down. She gets her drink. She goes to get her drink. I'm on my phone. She comes back and she's visibly upset. So I asked her, like, "Hey, what's wrong?" She's like, "Well, when I was going to get my drink, that guy like bumped me out of the way and got my." And before she could finish her sentence, I was up out of my seat. Dude was by the condiment bar going to get sauce or whatever. So I reach in front of him, take the sauce that he had taken out of the container and laid out on his tray, and I bump him as I walk away. So after I bumped him, he goes, "You can't say excuse me." And before he can finish his sentence, I turn around and say, "Oh, so you want to get the shit slapped out of you today, right? Say another motherfucking word, and I'm going to drag you across this goddamn Taco Bell." I know, right? I didn't mean to do it. I didn't mean to say it. It was just a reaction. So now, and I'm not yelling, and just the way I said it right now is the way I said it to him. So he's taken aback. He doesn't really know how to respond or what to say. So he tries to laugh it off. Oh, so you're a tough guy? You're a tough guy? And he's trying to get loud to get everyone's attention. And again, I just said, if you really want a problem, I'll slap the shit out of you right now in front of everybody. If it's really a problem, take it from me. He just kind of stands there, doesn't really say anything. So I walk off. I walk back to the table. Before I can get to the table and sit down, he makes another comment. I can't remember exactly what he said. So I put the sauce down on the table. I walk back up to him. Now, at the time, it's the cashier. It was a female cashier, and there was 2 young ladies in the back. I don't remember who was in the Taco Bell itself, but I remember the look on the young lady's face was like, I hope that they don't start fighting in here because I can't break it up. They're not going to break it up. And I could see in the guy's face that he didn't really want a problem. Otherwise, he would have swung on me. So this kind of emboldened me to keep it going. So now I called him a bunch of expletives and a punk and all this other type of stuff. So I finally just left him and was like, look, if you're going to do something, you see where I'm sitting at, come over here. And if you really want a problem, I got one for you. So he gets his food. He kind of timidly sits in the corner. And the whole time this is happening, my wife is hysterical. Stop. What are you doing? Leave him alone. So we start to eat or attempt to eat. So he gets his food, and as he walks out, he calls me a bitch and a pussy and all this other type of stuff. And so again, I invited him to a little bit of fisticuffs. It's like, if you got a problem, I can really come outside and I can just show you how much of a bitch I am. But he denied my request and he left. And I told my wife, I was like, well, she was upset with me because obviously this isn't how adults act. And this isn't how I'm supposed to act. And I kindly reminded her that this is who you married. Like, when you came over and told me that this dude pushed you out, I mean, he didn't push her out of the way, but when he bumped you out of the way, got whatever his drink was, and then walked away without saying anything, how did you expect me to react? Was I supposed to just say, "Oh, it's okay, babe. Like, he's just a jerk"? Like, was that supposed to be my response? Because in return, I don't think that you would have respected me for that. So while you might be upset with me that I did that in the store, I'm pretty sure that you feel safe now because you know that sort of behavior isn't acceptable. To quote the great philosopher from Atlanta, Clifford Harris, disrespect will not be tolerated by anyone at any time. Now, in hindsight, it was probably pretty stupid. And after we left, I felt pretty silly. And I immediately called Carlos Santana and told him what happened. It was like, well, I guess you were right. That sort of thing doesn't leave. So you were right. I am that guy. But as far as me being a hypocrite, I guess I am. As much as I try to deny it, but there's other things also that I'm wrestling with this because I don't want to say that I'm a hypocrite. I think that there's certain times that there's certain instances where you might go against your better judgment, or you might go against something you said because in the moment you made a decision, or maybe it's just maturity. I say that because I remember distinctly at the beginning of my relationship with my wife when I was against what was it, romantic dinners. I was against public displays of affection, holding hands, stuff like that. Like, I was just, nope, not gonna do it, never. Like, it's a good solid 3 or 4 years for her to get me to hold hands in public. And it's not because I was morally opposed to it. It was just something that I had never done. It was something that I was raised on. Well, I shouldn't say raised on. It was something that I never saw my parents do. So in turn, I believe that it wasn't something that was necessary for a relationship. So I've made a point of being like, no, we don't have to do that. Like, you don't need that. And over time, she kind of wore me down and made me understand that this is something that she likes. Granted, my parents may not have done that, but that's not our relationship. Their relationship was theirs, and this was ours. So, I'm not making a good case for myself right now. I guess vacations. Oh yeah, she'll tell you. Vacations was a big thing. As a kid, I mean, we had a lot of struggle vacations. We're 8 deep in the station wagon, going to Disneyland, sharing one hotel room. Don't ask to buy food there. Don't ask to buy memorabilia. Nothing like that. So I was against going on vacation, or I was under the guise that it was too expensive, because that's what my parents always said. Now, mind you, we were painfully middle class. Painfully. So I never really experienced that. Well, the vacations. We didn't take family vacations. We didn't take trips to places. We might go to Marine World or something. Well, when it was still Marine World. but you would use a discount card. You would do this, like going out of town for weeks at a time or days at a time, staying at hotels and go. We didn't do that, but she did. She's got plenty of stories about what she did. So when we came into the relationship, I was always opposed to it. Oh, my dad has a timeshare here. Do you want to go there? Nope, nope, don't want to do it. Nope. Or, hey, do you want to fly here or do this? And so, nope, don't want to do it. Not in the budget. That was my favorite thing. Not in the budget. We don't got money for that. Until one time, she finally beat me down. And she was just like, all right, look, we got the timeshare. It's already, like, you don't even have to pay for it. Everything's already paid for. My dad wants to meet us down there. All we have to do is go down there and meet him. It's maybe 2 hours outside of Bakersfield. So I ran out of excuses. So begrudgingly, I packed my stuff. We go down there. And wouldn't you know it, I had a ball. It was amazing. I don't know what people are talking about when they're talking about timeshares or a ripoff. Hey, it was cracking. It was cracking. It was right on the beach. Like, it was so close to the beach that you could hear the waves crashing. Like, it was amazing. It was absolutely amazing. And I think that was probably the first time I thought maybe I need to adjust my moral compass a little bit on some of the things that I say I'm going to do and some of the things I say I'm not going to do. Because, I mean, it's like we just said in the list earlier, if you don't try something, how can you know you don't like it? Or if you've never experienced something, how can you then say, oh, this is a bad thing, or so on and so forth? I guess the one thing that I did that was really hypocritical. Well, it's not even hypocritical. The one thing I said I would never do is the thing that she really got me with. I swore up and down I would never buy a diamond ring. Never, ever, 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 ever. Emeralds, jewels, whatever. Birthstones, all of that. I would buy one of those. But just, I was morally opposed to the diamond thing. Whether it was because of the blood diamonds from Africa or because De Beers is a monopoly who artificially inflates the price of diamonds. That's a whole nother conversation. But I just would not do it. Like, that was the one thing. Like, you can take me on vacations. We can do all that. I'll hold hands. I'll do public displays of affection. No diamond ring. Not going to do it. Absolutely. Will not do it. And again, she called my bluff. When we went to get married, she actually sent me a picture of the ring that she wanted. It was like, look, dude, we've been together for a decade almost. Like, this is what I want. Like, at a certain point, you kind of just have to go with it. Like, there was no arguing. And I kind of realized that my stance was kind of silly. I didn't really have a leg to stand on. So I gave in. Damn. I think I'm making her point for her right now. I really think I'm making her point for her. Well, nah, not necessarily. Because given those things, I don't think that those things are really, that's not really a moral situation or something where you're espousing a certain belief. And I say that because the last, what is it, 80, today is the 18th, so 88 days? Because the last 88 days, I've been on my raw fruit and vegetables, and I haven't strayed. Let me stop lying. We did have one cheat day because she was so, well, I guess she's a hypocrite. I say that because I would have had 88 days straight of just raw fruits and vegetables because I've been eating like a saint, buddy. And she made me feel bad because she told me that she said she felt bad because I was so dedicated to what I was doing, and she wasn't able to keep up the same regiment that I was. So I decided to break my little diet, and I bought round table pizza. I didn't do meat. I did mushrooms as our topping. So I guess she's a hypocrite too. Well, no, she's not a hypocrite, but she talks me into it. Either way, like I said, I stopped drinking after the wedding in like November or so. I haven't smoked for months. So I guess as far as those things, I've kept up my word. As far as the moral part of it or the religious aspect of it, I think I've held up my end of the deal. I haven't really espoused a certain moral view or anything like that. Now, with all that being said, hypocrite is too subjective. But what I will say, when I was thinking about the hypocrite thing and my argument with E.J. Johnson earlier, it made me think of double standards. Now, I thought of double standards because the reason that this all started, the argument with her, was again because there was a joke that got posted in this group, and the joke was a domestic violence joke. I'm not going to share the joke. Maybe some other time. But a couple of people in the group didn't think it was funny. Now, to be fair, the group that we're in is it's fans of a podcast that we all listen to. And in the podcast, they talk about, it's a true crime podcast. So they talk about all sorts of deviant behaviors and such. And so some of the people in the group thought it was funny, thought the joke was funny. Some people thought it wasn't funny. So one of the moderators deleted the post. So the guy who originally posted it came back and said, "Oh, I'm sorry if I offended anybody. I just thought it was in the spirit of the group, and I thought it was funny." So a couple of people said, "Oh, that was terrible. Like, that sort of thing is never funny." And me, being the person, I said, "I thought it was hilarious. I didn't see any reason why you should take it down." So one of the moderators, E.J. Johnson, said, "Oh, you're a scumbag, and how could you ever think that was funny?" And this, and I was like, "Well, comedy is subjective. You can't really define. Who are you to tell people what's funny and what's not funny? I mean, I'm sure there's things that you joke about in the privacy of your own home that other people wouldn't find funny. So how do you get to tell me that it's not funny because you're the moderator of a fan group? You get to decide." Like, what was my man in Gladiator? You give it the thumbs up or the thumbs down, and you get to decide. And I said a couple other choice things. I didn't swear. I didn't take any personal shots at this person. But I thought it was a really weird double standard because, of course, before I went into any kind of argument, I went onto her page and I looked at a couple of the things that she had posted. And it was the same thing. There was jokes about straight people. There was jokes about cisgendered women, stuff like that. I was like, so that sort of thing is funny because you said so. But it's not funny when I said it. And you're saying, "Oh, well, domestic violence," that's not the point. That's not the point of the subject matter. For example, I can think of a hypocritical thing right now that everybody thinks is funny. Or a double standard, I should say. There's one thing as a society that we can all agree is never funny, and that's rape jokes. Most people would say those are never funny, unless you're making them about a man. You're going to say, "No, Tru Sav, those are never..." I beg to differ. Because every time I was going to go to jail, there was always some funny guy who said, "Well, don't drop the soap." It's like, well, what are you implying? And why is that funny? Now, again, I'm not here to argue the merit of rape jokes. Like, that's not my intention. The intention is the point that there's double standards in everything. And so what one person might find funny or might not find funny, or what someone might find acceptable and someone else doesn't is always up for debate. One of my favorite ones is Barbie. Women always say, "Oh, well, that's not a standard of what women look like," and "Oh, that's this and that's that," and it's just not. It's not what the real woman looks like, and regular people look like this, and so on. And I agree with you. Barbie, in some cases, is an unattainable standard of beauty. So then I would ask, what is He-Man? What is G.I. Joe? What is Superman? Are those then unattainable? Oh my God, I can't talk right now. Are those unattainable standards of beauty for men? Like, why is that acceptable? There's an article I was looking at the New York Times where it was a writer was saying men objectifying women's bodies. If you're a man and you objectify women's bodies, it's so horrible, and so on and so forth, and that you're the dregs of society. Which is okay, it's your opinion. But then the same New York Times posted an article about 36 male bulges from the Summer Olympics. And it was a picture of 4 or 5 different men from the chest down. I was like, well, that's interesting. That seems like a very prevalent double standard. But we accept certain double standards in society. I understand. As a manager, one double standard that always comes up, it always comes up at work, is the sexual harassment double standard. And you're saying, Tru Sav, how could there be a double standard for sexual harassment? I'll tell you, it's very easy. The standard for sexual harassment is if you think the person making the statement is attractive. Example. There was a young lady that I work with, and a guy who she found attractive came in one day and was like, "Ooh, I like those jeans you're wearing. They're tight in the right places." It's like, "Ooh, thank you, Cliff. That is so sweet." Another guy was there when this happened, and he was like, "Yeah, they do have you looking right. Shut the fuck up, Mark. Don't talk to me like that." Mark obviously was someone that she didn't find attractive. So I thought it was odd that why is it okay for Cliff to say it, but it's not okay for Mark to say it? They're saying the same thing. So does that make her a hypocrite, or is it just a double standard? I don't know. I am just the purveyor of truth. Another interesting one I noticed was during Hurricane Katrina years and years ago. And there was a picture of, well, this double standard is more based on race than anything else. It was a picture of some people, obviously they were black, and they were leaving a store with food, milk, essentials, stuff like that. And the caption was, "Looters are out of control in New Orleans after Hurricane Katrina." A different newspaper, I'm assuming it was a different newspaper and not the same. I can't remember. It was a decade or so ago. It had a picture of a white couple taking the same thing, bread, milk, stuff like that. And it said, "Citizens foraging for supplies to survive after hurricane." And it didn't dawn on me. I said, that's interesting. Why are some people looters and why are some people foraging for food? Very interesting. Very interesting. I don't know. And again, I'm not here to debate the merits of these individual newspapers and how they sell newspapers. It's more of we're trying to figure out what is a hypocrite. And are you a hypocrite because you go back on what you say? Are you a hypocrite because you change your mind in a situation? If you use double standards, does that make you a hypocrite? I don't know. I think one major double standard I learned in the dating game was it's acceptable for women to judge a man based on his height, But it's not okay for a man to judge a woman on her weight. Like, women feel perfectly comfortable asking a man, how tall are you? And if you say, oh, 5'6", like, oh, no, I don't want to date you. But if a man in turn says, well, how much do you weigh? Oh, I can't believe you would say something like that. That is, and God forbid, don't ask them how old they are. That's the end of the world. It's going to be scorched earth. That's just out of the realm of possibilities. So it's almost, in certain cases, not just men and women, but I think sometimes people take their right to offend more seriously than your right to be offended. Like, they're perfectly comfortable with offending you, but in the same breath will turn around and say they don't want to be offended. So I think that's more of what a hypocrite is, I would think. Is someone who will offend you, but when the tables are turned, all of a sudden now they're a victim. Look at this. Yeah, look at that. We're making progress today. Look at that. We're learning stuff. All right. Last one with double standards. And we will move on to something more lighter. Actually, you know what? We might have our first Sydney Mac fact today. We might have to do it. I don't know. Let's see. We'll see how much time we got. Oh, well, oh, look at this. Sydney Mac is calling right now. Hold on, guys. Hold on. Okay. Thanks to the power of radio, I'm back. That was like a good 10 minutes. That was not Cindy Mac. That was my wife. So we will not have Cindy Mac facts today because I've got to take a shower and go to sleep. But anyway, so the last one. This is probably my favorite double standard. It's a men and women one. Why is it that if a man sleeps with a lot of women, he's a playboy, but if a woman sleeps with a lot of men, she's a slut? I actually had this question answered for me one time, and I'm not going to say I necessarily agree with it, but it was the best answer I ever got. And the answer was, the guys tell me the reason that this is because, metaphorically speaking, men are like keys, and women are like locks. Now, if any key, oh my gosh, how did I already mess it up? Men are like women. Jesus Christ, what is going on? See, it's too late in the day. This is what happens when I do this after work. Men are like keys and women are like locks. If the lock can be opened by any key, then that's not much of a lock. Wait, Jesus Christ, that doesn't even make sense. Oh, okay. I remember. Jesus Christ. Sorry about that. Men are like keys, women are like locks. If anything can open the lock, then that's not much of a lock. But if any key can open the same lock, then that's not much of a lock. But if one key can open every lock, then that's one hell of a key. See, it took me 10 minutes to remember it, but I remembered it. Yeah. Yeah, if any key can open a lock, that's not much of a lock. But if one key can open multiple locks, then that's a master key. Haha. Again, I don't agree with it. I just thought it was funny when he said it. Male virginity as opposed to female virginity. If you see a female that's a virgin, that's the sign of virtue. Oh, that's so great. It's amazing. But if a guy's a virgin, it's weird. It's like, oh, you're a nerd. Probably the most interesting double standard, well, my favorite one. I was at a wedding, and at this wedding, there was a young lady that had had more than a few drinks. But she was in good company, so there's nothing to be afraid of. And she was stumbling around, groping guys and making advances and so on and so forth. And everyone thought it was so funny. And oh, ha ha ha. She's having such a good time, this and this. And the first thing that popped into my mind was, what if that was a guy? Like, would it be as funny then? If there was a guy drunk, stumbling around, groping women, making unwanted sexual advances? So whether it's double standards or hypocrisy, like, I think it comes down to the person, I guess me specifically, and what your intent was. So there's a couple of things that I guess she was right. I was hypocritical about a few things, but I don't think that overall that makes me a hypocrite. I mean, I stuck to not drinking. I stuck to not smoking. I mean, I don't go to the gym as often as I would like to, but I think that from a moral standpoint, I stay true to most of the things that I believe and have said to have believed. Do I come through on everything I say? Like, oh, I'm gonna do the dishes today, or I'm gonna sweep the floors? Probably not. But I think the majority of us don't. Like, I think it's basically just defined as living contrary to what you preach. And for the most part, I think I'm good. I think I'm good. We all have times where we don't live up to the things we say. It's human. But I think she reached a little bit far with that one. Well, guys, we've got 15 minutes to go, and I'm running out of shit to talk about. So we are going to have the very first segment, Cindy Mac Facts. Yay! Introduce yourself.
Hello.
Okay, the person saying hello is Cindy Mac.
Hello.
Oh my god. So
What?
So
That's
here.
how I introduce myself at weddings and stuff.
So.
Hello.
Usually on the Best Day Ever podcast, it's just me, but we're gonna have a new show. It's gonna be called "That's Not My Business," and part of "That's Not My Business" is gonna be Cindy Mac Facts. So, what were you just telling me about your paper shredder? Please enlighten everybody.
It's overheating.
Why is it overheating?
Because I fucking shredded everything.
What is everything?
All my DUI papers.
How many DUIs do you have?
1.5.
How do you have a half of a DUI?
Because it was almost over. I was on my 9th year. So it should really only be my first.
Did you tell the judge that?
Yes.
What did the judge say?
His face looked at me and his glasses slid down to the tip of his nose and he just glanced at me for like 10 minutes like Judge Judy would do and just was like, "You're going to jail for 4 days. Did you not read the board on the wall?" I was like, "I read the board on the wall." But I also heard the person that had a lawyer in front of me and they got something else. So I thought maybe I can get something else. And he said, "Do you have a lawyer?" And I said, "I think I'm kind of my own lawyer today." And he said, "Try again." So then I had to get a public defender. And they screwed the fuck out of me. I ended up going to jail.
And this is why we call it Cindy Mac Facts. She makes up her own truth.
I should have fucking listened to Surge. But he also lied because he said, "Ooh, you'll get a public pretender." And I said, "What?" And then after I told Serge the story, he's like, "You should have fired that motherfucker." I said, "What? You can't fire someone that you didn't even hire. That doesn't make sense."
It does, but I mean, you know.
It's like, okay, there's one public defender in the room, maybe two, and you know they best friends because they went to lunch together probably. So then you're sitting in the room like, yeah, I need a public defender. And then one of the two people comes up to you like, I got this one. And then what? You're going to be like, fired. And then their best friend is going to take your case and give you the same bullshit. And then they're both going to laugh at you next to the people that are like writing the shit down. And they're just going to be staring at you like, yeah, bitch, try it now. And you're just going to be up there by yourself like, what the fuck? Yeah, I don't know. I should probably get a law book.
Oh, I'm so glad I called you right now.
Why? I actually have a book. How to get out of a ticket in California, but I had probable cause. They don't have probable cause reasons in this book, so I could have used it if I didn't have a brake light that was out. Oh, do you hear that? It stopped overheating.
So, ladies and gentlemen, that's Cindy Mac with Cindy Mac Facts. I'm going to call you back in like 10 minutes when I'm done.
Okay.
All right. Yes, that is Cindy Mac. I'm pretty sure she's going to have her own episode. That's going to be coming up really shortly. So, That's Not Your Business. We'll probably do that on Thursdays. So this will be Tuesdays. That's Not Your Business will be Thursdays with our special guest, Cindy Mac. And she can regale you with tales of how she thinks the world should work. If anybody, well, I can't even call her a hypocrite because she really believes that. Like, she really believed that she should get a DUI and a half because it had been 9.5 years. So, yeah, that is going to be so much fun. I got to go back. It's actually so much fun. All right, we got 8 minutes. Let's see. We'll share some tales of the Tru Sav days. I have the perfect story. This was one time when I stayed true to my morals, we could say. It was me, or it was Smokey the Bee. Smokey the Bee, Landon, D Nice, Seth, maybe 4 other people, and they were all. We were at Seth's house. It was one of those Labor Day. What was it? Spring break. I think it was spring break. They were still in high school. Smokey the Bee, myself, Landon. I think we had graduated, and we were broke as usual. Seth's parents were gone for the week, so of course we made our home at his house. And when I was younger, I really wasn't much for stealing, stuff like that. I still had my moral compass, and I still was opposed to that, as with a lot of other stuff. But as we will learn in later tales, that left rather quickly. So they said, well, we're hungry. We want to go to this restaurant. It was a Chinese restaurant that was amazing. But I was like, bro, I don't have any money. So I'm not really go. The only money I got, I'm trying to spend on the rest of this weed and alcohol. So they're like, nah, it's cool. We're just going to dine and ditch. I was like, dine and ditch? What's that? They're like, you've never dined and ditched before? I was like, no. Like, what is that? And they're like, oh, you go, you order your food, and then you dip. I was like, well, what happens? Like, what do you mean what happens, fool? Like, you eat the food and you bounce. I was like, well, what happens if they chase you? She's like, they're not going to chase you. Like, there's 7 of us. Like, they're not going to catch all of us. I was like, well, that's not going to work for me. So they were like, well, if you don't want to go, it's fine. Like, you can just stay here. I'm like, all right, whatever. So Seth and I stayed, and the other 7 of them went. So we're sitting at the house, hanging out, and maybe an hour goes by. So after an hour goes by, we get a phone call. So we're assuming that they must be calling, asking us if we want something. They're on the way back. Wrong. They call, and it sounds like they are in the Blair Witch Project. Like I can hear them running, so I hear heavy breathing. The phone is shaking. Now, mind you, this is in 2001, 2002, so the phone quality isn't as good as it is today. So I can hear them running. I hear people yelling in the background. They're breathing heavy. Tru Sav, you gotta come get us. Hell, man, we're running. I'm like, well, slow down. Like, wait till you get somewhere where you can talk and then call me. Like, don't try to call me when you're running. Okay, and hang up. So I'm looking at Seth. I'm like, oh shit, like something bad obviously happened. Like so now me and him we're up. We're trying to figure out like what's going on. Like, oh, we're waiting with bated breath. So they finally call back and they tell us what happened. Well, first they tell us where they are, and they are across the street in a wooded area, like where there's no lights, like hiding behind a car dealership. So we're like, wait, like, look, we're on the way. Just, we know kind of where you are. We'll get closer so like they don't hear you. So Seth and I leave. He was driving. We go to the Chinese restaurant. It was maybe 10 minutes away from his house. So we drive up to the restaurant, or we drive to where we think they're at. We're driving around, and we see all 7 of them in a cul-de-sac. This is behind a row of businesses and in front of a car dealership, but just enough in the darkness that you can't see them. So we pull up, and everyone's outside trying to act cool. Like, they didn't just run through a wooded area to get away. And there is a transient there with them, asking them if they know where we could buy some crack. Unfortunately, good sir, we're not certain on where we could buy some crack at. So we're just gonna have to leave you with that. So we ask them what happened. We're like, well, why are you over here? Like, what happened? So, ooh, sorry, Jesus, I need some orange juice. So they tell us that they went inside as planned. They ate all their food, and around the time that the bill was going to come, they decided that they were going to get out of there. So instead of running out of the front door, they decided to run out of the emergency exit. I don't know why they did that. It seemed a bit foolish. So instead of getting out of the front and just getting away unnoticed, they went out the emergency exit, which set off the alarm, which now drew everyone's attention to them as they ran out of the door. So now, as they ran out of the door, you would think, well, where were your cars at? Because usually in a dine and dash, the people who are driving leave first. They get their cars, they go park by the door or wherever, so you can make a quick escape. No. These dummies park their cars in front of the restaurant, like in the front 2 spots. Not like on the side, not a couple doors down, like right in front. They didn't even park their cars in backwards. So they're explaining this, and like, you guys are America's dumbest criminals. Like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Oh, no, bro, you don't even know. Like, you were too scared to go. I was like, I might have been too scared, but I wasn't too dumb to do something like that. So we devise a plan, and we take the 2 drivers with us back to the restaurant to get their cars to drive off. So they get in the car with us. We drive over. We kind of creep around the parking lot to make sure that, like, they're not outside waiting for them. I mean, if they took their license plate down at this point, like, it was too late. So we drive up. We drop the 2 drivers off. They get in their cars. They go pick up the other people, and they live to dine and dash another day. So I don't know, bro. That was a story from the Tru Sav Chronicles. We are so dumb. We are so dumb. I would go back and repay them for the food they stole, but that place went out of business. So I guess all's well that ends well. Whew, look at that. 1 hour right on the dot. So, again, like I was saying, I guess I'm not really a hypocrite. I guess I just don't always follow through with what I say sometimes. So, again, iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, Best Day Ever Podcast. It's your boy, Tru Sav. Don't forget, follow me on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook at Tru Sav Comedy. Questions, comments, concerns, Best Day Ever Podcast at gmail.com. Not this Thursday coming up, but I want to say it'll be the first Thursday in October. So October 3rd is going to be the Best Day Ever Podcast presents That's Not My Business. It's going to be a little more lighthearted. We're not going to talk about being a better person, having the best day ever. It's going to be silly stuff. It's going to be topic of the day. It's going to be why Nicki Minaj retired from rap. I'm just pretty much going to tell jokes for half an hour. It's not going to be anything too serious. So that's going to be fun. I look forward to doing that. I'm out of here. It's past my bedtime. So I can't get yesterday back. I might not get tomorrow, so that makes today the best day ever. All right, I'm going to holler at y'all.